Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The BENGEBUSTER Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
Hello everyone, welcome to The BENGEBUSTER Show, coming to you right here from the Queen City of Charlotte, and it's WrestleMania weekend is upon us. And we're going to be talking all things wrestling. Well, not really. We're going to talk all things terrific, Tony. Before we get started tonight, I want to bring on my co-host for this week's show. I am talking about none other than my good friend, Jeff Patton. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Great to be back.
Man, Jeff, I know this is like two podcasts that I've did in 1 week. We recorded earlier in the week, Chris and I, and now tonight, you and I. And I don't know if you had a chance to listen to mine and Chris's show, but we were talking about, the big story this week was Will Smith slapping the taste out of Chris Rock's mouth, and Chris and I talked about how that wasn't the first time something like that's happened in mainstream, as Jerry the King Lawler had smacked Andy Kaufman back in the early 80s. Jeff, real quick, we'll just get into this for just a second, because I'm kind of I know everybody's tired of hearing it. I just want to get your opinion. What is your thoughts on this whole situation?
I don't know, man. I'm kind of you watch it and you think, well, was it staged or was it not? I mean, you really can't. You really can't tell, but they're just certain things to me, you don't mess with. And when, you talk about somebody who has does she not have an illness or something? And, but to me, you don't cross that boundary. And you talk about slaps. To me, the greatest slap I've ever seen is Dr. D. David Schultz.
Yeah.
When the guy doing the interview tried to tell him that wrestling was fake. And then Dr. D just slapped the taste out of the guy's mouth a couple times. And he looked at him and said, was that fake? Was that fake?
Yeah, well, the thing there was, like you said, he slapped him, but not only did he slap him once, he slapped him twice. He slapped him right-handed, then again left-handed, and good old John Stossel was put in his place by Dr. D. David Schultz, and that's kind of what happened. Like you said, Chris was trying to be funny, and he kind of crossed the line. But a lot of people were speculating that it was set up, but I really don't think so, because the way Will Smith was breaking down when he was doing his acceptance speech. But I also heard or read online this morning that the Academy or the Oscars had actually, after that incident happened, they asked Will Smith to leave and he refused. And so now they're in meetings now trying to determine what is going to happen at this point as far as what the circumstances are going to entail. So I'm curious to see if they're going to take away the award, ban him from the Academy. Who knows? But I know this definitely has put a black eye on Will Smith's career for sure.
Yeah, I guess so, man. I guess he thought he was back in Independence Day, and Chris Rock, he's so small, I guess he could mistake him for E.T. I don't know, man.
One of the two. But he definitely, it was crazy how it happened. But I know a lot of people in the movie business has spoke out about it, and I know we talked about earlier. I mentioned Jerry Lawler and Andy Kaufman, and the actor who portrayed Andy Kaufman, Jim Carrey. He had some words to say about that, and they were none too pleasant. So. Definitely a lot of people are upset about the whole situation. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen with Will Smith's career I know in the 80s he had a song called Parents Just Don't Understand. I think a lot of people don't understand at this point what provoked him. Well, they understand what provoked him, but they don't understand how or why he chose to cross that barrier and get up and smack a grown man in the face. I know Chris Rock was a better man than me, Chris, because Jeff, because I can tell you, anybody ever slap me in the face, I'm not going to sit there and go, wow. I'm going to be throwing some punches for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Well, speaking of punches, let's get into this week's podcast as we are continuing the early career of yours truly. And this week we're going to be talking the years 97 and 98. Jeff, get us started.
Okay, well, I did. I don't know, if you were wrestling between them, but I took 2 years off and came back in 1997, and we were Burke County Wrestling, but we were going under the United States Wrestling Association or Wrestling Council, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we, instead of having a world title, we had a U.S. title and U.S. Tag Team Championships. And then later on, we brought in a U.S. TV Championship. So our first was a U.S. title tournament held on June 28, 1997 at the Thomasville Armory. In round number 1, you defeated Maniac Mark. And then in the semifinal round, you lost to yours truly, Gorgeous Jeff.
Yes, I remember that show. That was like it was a daytime show, or early on, like, because it was in the summer. I remember that building there at the Armory had these great big huge windows, and I remember distinctively that show. It almost seemed like it was a matinee, even though it wasn't a matinee show, but it seemed like it was because of the sunshine, coming through the building. But what a great night it was. I remember, matter of fact, I think that's the night that we actually rented Mark Hildebrand's ring, which is now ran by our good friend Jason Freeman. But we used that ring. Am I correct on that?
Yes, we are. Yes, you are. I'm sorry. Yes, you are. Our next stop, we wrestled quite a bit with, like we did 3 shows in Mount Airy.
Yeah.
Then we had the Burke County Fair, and I think that was just one match we had with Mark Henderson, and I let him do the fair that year. Then we go to December the 6th. We're back at the Thomasville Armory, Stardust 97, and we ran a card. We had some of the guys from the Binghams, the guys from Mount Airy, brought their ring down. We rented it this time.
Yes.
And during Stardust, U.S. Tag Team, first U.S. Tag Team champions were crowned. It was just a one match, winner take the belts. It was Terrific Tony and Gorgeous Jeff against Maniac Mark and the Crow, and of course we did not win.
Yes, I remember this show very well, Jeff. It was a great time there at the Army. I know. Like always, we drew a pretty good crowd there, but it was kind of like one of those things where the ring rental deal, I feel like now looking back, being older, probably wasn't the best deal to do the ring, because we I think it was a 50-50 split with them, and which is whatever. We should have paid a flat fee for the ring and not give them half of the door, but that was the deal that we made. But Jeff, the crazy backstory of this show is is really crazy. At the time, I was coming off of I wasn't divorced yet, but I had left my then wife, and she decided to come to the show anyway. She and I had been split up for a few months at this point. But now we're running this show in my hometown. Now the time, why at that point in my life when we were still quote married, she didn't really care to come to any shows. And now that we're separated and I had moved on with my life and found somebody different, she decided to come. And I remember, she was there with one of my cousins, and then of course I brought the new girl there, and I brought her through the back door into the building, and I remember the professor and Donnie and a couple other people came up to me and said, Tony, isn't that your ex-wife out there? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, but Tony, isn't that your girlfriend out there too? I'm like, yeah. And they said, you're the man. You got both of them here. And I didn't really feel too much like the man at that point, because I just felt like there was going to be some issues, but there wasn't. But it was very awkward and very hard for me to concentrate on the match at hand, which, Jeff, I apologize to you years later, probably the reason why we lost. But in any event, it was just one of those things. And like I said earlier, I said, as we do this podcast, I'll give people some inside scoops that you never would have known. And there's one of them right there. But I was trying to be too much like my idol, Ric Flair, I guess, at that time in my life. But a great show. And like I said, we did end up losing the tag titles to Mark and the Crow, which incidentally, the Crow was a high school friend of mine, Kenny Gallimore, who later on become. I know he had several gimmicks, but mostly Tristan Blade was his most popular. And of course, as the months go by, we'll probably touch on that as well. But what a fun show, Jeff, and what was the main event on that show? Was our tag titles the main event, or was there another match?
No, we were in a 6-man tag was the main event.
Okay.
The U.S. title match was after us, and then the 6-man, we had a 6-man tag. It was us and Tenacious Tony against Mark, Donnie, and country boy Leroy Clinton, who recently passed away. Right.
Okay, I remember now. Yeah. That was definitely a fun night. And it's cool doing this podcast, Jeff, because like you're bringing back these memories of shows that I remembered, but I thought they were beforehand or whatever. But yeah, that was a good time. So from there, that's the end of 90. At that. So is that the last show we did of 97?
Yes, and then we go to 1998, where we did a 1-year lease on a building in downtown Morganton, and the first big, we had a couple shows before this one, and I'm just bringing up like your big highlights.
Yes.
Yeah, we started there on January the 10th. That was our first show there. This one was January 24th, and it was the return match with Mark and the Crow against Gorgeous Jeff and Terrific Tony. This time we won the U.S. Tag Team titles from those two guys. Yeah,
and as we go through the year 98, I believe that we traded those belts with them on several occasions, and we'll get more into that. But I do remember this match very good. I remember we had a pretty decent crowd there too for our grand opening. And Jeff, I love that building. It was so cool. You had your little office there, and then we had space for the ring and the fans and a concession area. But the coolest thing was we had this huge dressing room, and then we also had an area that we could, a garage, so to speak, that we could pull our cars into, and fans, just so you know, at the time, Jeff and I had this tag team called Simply Perfection, and it was so cool, Jeff. If you remember back then, you had a Camaro, and then I went out and got a Camaro. So we both had Camaros. Remember that?
Yeah, we were kind of like the Horsemen back in the 80s, trying to outdo each other with vehicles, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's like, okay, Jeff's like, I got a Camaro. I'm like, oh man. And at the time, I had like this little a Nissan, no, what kind of car was that? A Mitsubishi Eclipse is what I had. And then Jeff had the Camaro, and I'm like, okay, I got to get a Camaro. And I went and got a Camaro, and then and at the time, our tag team was called Simply Perfection, and I had a license plate that said Perfection on the front of the Camaro. So, and if I remember, Jeff, was your Camaro like what color was yours? Because I know I think mine was white.
Yeah, I think mine was black.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. But man, that was so cool because I called you on the phone. I'm like, hey, Jeff, I got a Camaro now. And you was like, what? I said, yeah. You said, okay, we're definitely tag team partners. I said, yep. But yeah, that was really cool. And, but so many cool matches took place there in that studio building. And then of course, so after this show, I think we ran a show there every week, correct?
Yes, and sometimes we'd run a show on Sunday. We'd run Saturday and Sunday.
Right. Yes.
I think we did every Saturday night, and then we did every other Sunday. And
right.
We did a matinee show on Sunday.
Yeah. And the Sundays were like our were they like our little house shows, or were those like television tapings? I'm trying to remember.
I think we weren't on TV, but we taped and did commentary on Saturday night.
Okay.
And then Sunday was just like a house show, like you said. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah. March the 15th, we lost the tag team belts in a street fight to Highly Explosive, which was Maniac Mark and his new partner, Dynamite Dusty.
That's right. I remember. Yeah. I really remember this night. Was that the night that Dustin came out wearing like some kind of funky clothes and you decided to beat the crap out of him because you didn't want him wearing those? Or when was that?
No, that was later on, I think.
Oh, okay. I remember that because I remember you going, Tony, the boy, I've been trying to teach him right, and he's not wearing he's not wearing tights. He's wearing some goofy outfit. I remember that. So you were so hot. I was like, yeah, why is the kid not wearing a singlet, wearing some kind of camouflage pants or something? I think at the time he was trying to be like DX, and I didn't even know who DX was because I didn't watch wrestling. So, but yeah, I remember us losing the belts to them. It seemed like it was so crazy during that time, Jeff. It seemed like Mark was always a thorn in our side. He was always getting new partners to come and take us on, and sometimes they would beat us, and sometimes they wouldn't. So, but I do remember having some good matches with him and Dustin. Yeah,
April 4th, we won the tag team belts back from Highly Explosive.
Yes. Now, was that the cage match?
No, that was no.
Okay.
That was not the cage match. No.
Okay.
That was just, we won them back, and then we go to April 25th, which was the birthday bash, and that was the cage match where we won. We lost the tag team belts back to Highly Explosive.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I remember this cage match was so fun. We were in there, and you and me and Mark and Dustin were having a great match. Kept going back and forth. And I think at this point, Mark and I were going to get color, and maybe Dustin too. And I remember I told Mark, I said, I'll throw you in the cage first. You get a little color, and then I'll get mine. And you were like, okay. Or Mark was like, okay. And this was the first time Mark had ever got color. And if you remember, Jeff, Donnie was always known to have the best color. But I have to say, that night, Mark beat him. Remember that, Jeff?
Yeah.
Because I ended up throwing Mark in the cage, and Mark goes and he gets his color. And I looked over at you, and Mark's like pouring blood. And I look over at you, Jeff, and I said, Jeff, we got to go home. And you said, why? I said, look at Mark's face. And you said, good grief. You said good grief as you were punching Dustin in the head. I was like, oh my gosh. And man, I remember the blood was like, I was actually terrified because I really thought that he had hit a vein in that. But and even Donnie was like, brother got more color than me. He was like, yeah. But that was also a fun match too, even though we had to end it, kind of early on. But looking back now, we just overreacted, but man, what a crazy time.
Yeah. The next talking point will be June the 20th, and Terrific Tony wins the U.S. heavyweight title by beating Maniac Mark in the main event.
Nice, and that was that took place there also in Morganton at the studio.
Yes.
Okay. Yep. Ended up winning the title for Mark, and I remember we had a pretty good match. And then the match after that was when.
The next time, you would lose the belt back to Maniac Mark on August the 8th.
Okay, yeah. Again in the same building, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and then August the 29th, in the same building, you beat Maniac Mark again.
Oh, I was U.S. champion twice?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't aware of that. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And now here's the funny one.
Okay.
A week later, I don't know what possessed us. Maybe I'm trying to look back and think, because at some point he went from Maniac Mark to Magnificent Mark.
Yeah. He turned.
I think at the time, yeah, you were baby and he was heel, right?
He become a baby when he become Magnificent Mark. So I think
a heel.
Yeah,
he become a heel when he was like,
yeah. Maniac Mark.
It in the book.
Yeah,
I got it in the books on the 29th when you won the title back from him. I got him as Magnificent Mark. So somewhere between there, he had turned.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to go off memory, but it seems to me like we did a double turn that night. I believe if I remember right, it was Mark and Kenny against you and me. And I believe in that match, I do remember Mark. He super kicked. I'm pretty sure he super kicked Kenny. We got the pin on Kenny, and then while I was in the middle of the celebration, because I think I inadvertently hit you in the thing. I inadvertently hit you. Then Mark comes in, super kicks Kenny. I cover Kenny 1, 2, 3. Then your character got mad at me and turned on me. And so it left Kenny and me in the middle of the ring getting beat down by the Palace of Pain, and Mark become the newest member of the Palace of Pain.
Right. Yeah.
If I remember.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. And then I was U.S. champion, and I think I lost the belt to you, correct?
Right. The following week, we had a triangle match with Terrific Tony, Magnificent Mark, and Gorgeous Jeff, and I ended up winning the U.S. title in the triangle match.
Right. Okay. That's what I remembered. Okay. And then because I think at that point is when Mark ended up with a valet. I don't remember her name, but I think she was like Donnie and Tony's valet for a brief period of time or something. Or it may have been after that, but I think she ended up being his girlfriend for a short period of time, which is why she was his valet, if I remember correct. Right? Okay.
Yeah, Asia was her.
Asia, yeah. That's right.
Okay. I want to give you plenty of time to talk about this one.
Okay.
October 1st, we were at the Burke County Fair. Fall Blast 1998. Terrific Tony is pinned or loses. You did get pinned, if I'm not mistaken, to the legend himself, the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant.
Yes. Now this match was like you said, one of those things where I think you and I had a match. It seems like you and I had a match prior to this. Something about where I had like if I lost, I had to join back up with the Palace of Pain or something like that, if I remember. And
yeah, the week before on the 26th, me and Mark wrestled Terrific Tony and Tristan Blade, and I think that was a stipulation.
Yeah.
That if you lost, and then we had something stipulation with us, but anyway, yeah, you had to join back with us.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. I think the stipulation was if we beat you guys, y'all had to leave BC, or you guys had to leave the area, and if you guys beat us, I had to join the Palace of Pain and take on Jimmy Valiant at the Burke County Fair. I believe that's how it went, because when we got to the fair, you told Boogie, that I had to wrestle him because of the thing. But I remember, what I remember most about this was a time that I had just met Jimmy Valiant, and I remember being so super nervous about wrestling him that when you brought him in, you and I drove to Morganton that Thursday night, and we went to his hotel room, and another guy came with you, or met us up there, Outlaw Wayne Taylor, and I'll never forget being in that hotel room, and I was so nervous, but I'm talking to Boogie. Of course, it wasn't the first time I had met Boogie. I had met Boogie working for a different promotion, but that's how I met him initially, and then started like going to his wrestling camp. But anyway, before that, I get Boogie booked, or actually we booked Boogie for this fair through me, and where I had wrestled that other promotion and met him there and got his information, and then, but anyway, we get to the hotel room, and I'm, nervous because I want to go over the whole match with Boogie, and I remember we're going to all this stuff, and he's telling me, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. And then I said, and then he goes, okay. And then you get a little heat on me, and I said, okay. I said, how do you want me to bump you? He said, bump, brother. Hold on a minute. He said, I haven't give you not one bump, and I'm not taking a bump. As a matter of fact, we got 20 other guys before us taking bumps. We don't have to take any. And I'll never forget that, as long as I lived, and that kind of become my gimmick word. I would tell wrestlers, I was like, hey, brother, listen, we got 20 other guys in front of before us bumping. We ain't got to take any. But it was just a funny joke. But I remember at that point, Boogie kind of laughed, and of course I knew he was joking, but it was still funny. But then he and I are trying to talk about our match and stuff, and you're like trying to lay it out to him as far as the reason why he and I are wrestling each other. And Wayne keeps like interjecting himself and talking, and I remember Boogie looking at him and go, he says, talking about his teeth, I guess. Boogie's like, hey brother, do you smoke? He goes, yeah. He goes, I can tell. You remember that?
Yeah.
I was just laughing so hard because Boogie was like one of those people where he'd be ribbing you and you wouldn't even know it because he'd do it so nonchalantly.
Yeah.
But we left there, and a couple of days later, the fair was in town, and I remember Jeff coming out for this match, and of course there at the fair, we had separate dressing rooms. The babies are on one side, Hills on the other, so I didn't even get to speak to Boogie prior to the match. So I basically had to go off the memory of 2 days earlier, of what we talked about. But I remember getting in the ring and we're working, and he said to me, kid, you can work. This is great. And I said, thanks, Boogie. And then I remember he, the finish was I went in my tights and got, Mark came up from the ring and threw me a pair of brass knuckles, and then Boogie had put me in the sleeper. Mark comes in, gives me the brass knuckles. I lay back down on the mat, and Boogie picks me up, and boom, I punched him, knocked him out. I get the 3 count. Everyone thought, oh my God, he just pinned Boogie. And then of course Donnie comes out and tells the ref that, I've got a gimmick, and then of course Boogie finds the gimmick, and then takes it from me, shoots me in the ropes, gives me the famous Boogie elbow, and covers me 1, 2, 3. And it was just a fun match, and I remember the crowd went crazy. And at that night is kind of the start of mine and Boogie's friendship, because after that, we talked all the time, and he would book me on his shows, and I booked him on mine, and then I'd go to his camp and train, and so that was in what, 97, 98.
98.
So so he and I, been really close friends ever since that. But man, that was like one of those matches. I remember telling you, Jeff, thank you, I can retire now, because it was just a great night, and huge crowd. Probably at that point it was the biggest crowd I ever wrestled in front of, and just a great memory. So thank you for that.
Oh, well, yeah, that was a great night. Well, fast forward a little bit to December the 5th, and we're back in the studios there in downtown Morganton. And we had a tag team, that Gentleman James and Outlaw Wayne Taylor, who were the U.S. Tag Team Champions at the time. They had a falling out and split up. So a week before that, they had a match where the winner would get both tag team belts and would be able to choose a partner to be tag team champion with them. However, it went to a double count out, no contest, whatever. So on December 5th, instead of having another tag team tournament, the United States Wrestling Council decided we're going to do something different. We're going to have a singles tournament, and the winner of the singles tournament is going to get both tag team belts and be able to choose his partner to be the U.S. Tag Team Champions. So during the tournament, in round number 1, you defeated Super G. In round number 2, which was the quarterfinals, you defeated Captain Kirk. Going into the semifinals, you defeated Gentleman James, and in the final, you defeated Dangerous Donnie and was presented with both U.S. Tag Team titles.
Man, now tell me, somebody was over on somebody has some pull with the U.S. Wrestling Council. Somebody was booking that, right? Man, I look back at that, and man, in one night I get to wrestle so many guys that were so talented, and they all made me look like $1 million. So, a big change from 98 to 93, Jeff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to beat, the young upstart Super G, who, I'm going to tell you right now, I mean, I had a lot of guys I wrestled and a lot of guys I enjoyed wrestling, but he was one of my favorite opponents just because he's crazy. He'd do anything.
Yeah.
And then you beat Gentleman James and Dangerous Donnie in the same night. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
That is really big.
That's a big steep. Yeah. I don't think anybody's ever done that before. And maybe you.
Yeah. And, the tournament probably the same. Yeah. So you choose your cousin, Magnificent Mark, to be tag team champions with you. And you guys have one successful title defense. And then on December 26th at the BCW Studios, you guys lose the U.S. Tag Team titles to Christian Blade and Super G. Yes.
And were they the final tag team champions? Because was that the year that was that the month of our last show there?
Yes. Yeah, that was the last show we did there.
Okay, yeah. That's what I thought. And but man, what a fun way. I mean, they were a good tag team. But Jeff, one of the matches that But yeah, Jeff, one of the matches that I remember us doing there that you didn't bring up was the street fight between you and I against Maniac Mark and the Crow, And that match was so hilarious because it was a street fight. Anything goes, no rules, and the crowd was chanting that we were cheating, and the referee at the time was trying to be a mark and trying to help the baby faces win, and things got a little crazy, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at when that happened.
Fans, while Jeff's looking that up, I have to tell you that is the first time that I ever heard Jeff. Jeff used to always get on to us because me and Donnie would Donnie and I would be the worst ones for this. We would accidentally cuss or say a swear word during the match, and Jeff would always say no cussing. And this was the first time that I heard Jeff actually curse on the microphone with the infamous words. He would say, "Hey, it's a stinking street fight. Anything goes. If you don't like it, kiss my ass." And I remember walking through the dressing room, and Donnie said, "Well, boys, Tony, I guess we can cuss now."
Here it is. I found it. It was February 14th, the bloodiest Valentine.
Yes.
We beat Maniac Mark and the Crow.
Yes, for the tag titles, or we were the tag champions. And I remember we went for the finish. I did some I don't remember what move but I did some move to the Crow, and I told the ref, I said, "This is a 3 count right here." And he counted 1, 2, and he says, "No, you gotta." That's right. I hit Kenny with my brass knuckles, my fake brass knuckles. Hit Kenny with them. He goes 1, 2. He goes, "No, you got brass knuckles." And I said, "Son of a bitch!" And I end up punching Kenny as hard as I could in the sternum, and it wasn't even Kenny's fault. And Kenny was like, "Oh, my sternum." And then you came in and did something to Mark and pinned, and then that's when you came over to the microphone and said, "It's a stinking street fight. Anything goes. If y'all don't like it, kiss my ass." And then we got back to the dressing room, and I wanted to beat the referee up so bad because he botched so many things for us during that match. It was crazy. But then I had to apologize to Kenny because I was like, "Brother, I did not mean to punch you." But back then, Jeff, I was so passionate about my matches. Such a perfectionist is like, I hated things to get messed up.
The part I remember is you had some kind of rope or something, and you was choking Mark with it, and this goofball was trying to take it from you.
Yes.
It's a street fight, man.
Yep.
What part of street fight don't you understand,
Yeah.
referee?
And
your job in a street fight is to stand in a corner and make a 3 count. That's it. Just stand and watch. That's all.
Yeah. And I remember Jeff. I shot on the referee during that match because I told him, I said, "I'm going to super kick you," and I super kicked him, which was my move that all the guys sold crazy for. I super kicked this dude, and he wouldn't take a bump, and I tackled him. Remember that? I tackled him and told him, "You better stay down." And he did, but oh my gosh. And then I remember another time, Jeff, when you made him the commissioner and he tried to take the belts back and give them to Donnie and James. Donnie and Tony.
Yeah.
And you're like, "Tony, I'm going to have to fire that son of a bitch." I said, "Yeah, I know. You need to get rid of him because he don't realize this will work." He's trying to come in.
He thought as a commissioner he gets to run everything.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that was one of the funniest things ever. But during that year, Jeff, 98, it was such a fun year. So many great matches took place there in that building, and so many fun things. And I guess during this time is when I started doing commentary with you, and I had never done that before, but ended up I was pretty good at it, and it was comical. And I'll never forget the one night I came out there. We were doing commentary for the show, and I came out there and sat down at a table with you and your brother Tony, and I had at the time this year in 98, Jeff Foxworthy was getting really hot with his "You Might Be a Redneck" stuff, and somebody had got me that book for Christmas, or my birthday or something. I got it for some reason, whatever. But I had this book, and I went through the book, and I had paper clipped some of the funny things I wanted to say during our commentary, and I remember saying stuff, and how we were setting it was like me, your brother, and you, and so you're watching the matches, and your brother was between us, so a lot of times, you didn't see me with the book, and I would say one of those one-liners like, "Yeah, I was on the way up here to Morgan and saw this old mailbox made out of old car parts." I said, you're in redneck country when you see that, and I said I would say things from this book, and I remember a couple times you and your brother were cracking up so much that you guys couldn't talk, but the great thing, my favorite part of those commentaries was when that guy. Taurus had came out, and he had this chick with him that was so she was wearing like an I Dream of Jeannie costume, and he's wearing like what was it, it was a video game, I think Street Fighter or something, but anyway he was like, or Mortal Kombat, so he was wearing like a Mortal Kombat costume, and he called himself Taurus, and he was in the ring wrestling this person, and so he had this really hot chick with him there that I think was his cousin. Wasn't even his girlfriend, it was his cousin. And she was out there making all these hand gestures, and like he took a big bump, and she lifted her hand up, and then he set up, and I remember making you and your brother laugh so hard you neither one of you could talk. I said, "Gorgeous Jeff, did you see that?" I said, "With one hand she got him up." I said, "Who needs Viagra?" And you were cracking up so bad. You said, "Tony, I'm not gonna be able to take this video up to, I'm going to have to edit everything out before I take it to the TV because they're not going to let us play it." I was having so much fun. I was like, and I remember when they walked by, I said, "Hey, girl, come over here." I said, "You need to manage me instead of him." I said, "But you ain't got to walk me to the ring." I said, "I just want you to see, I want to see you do all that stuff in my dressing room." And your brother was like, "Tony, you got to stop, man. I can't breathe." He was laughing so hard. But it was just stuff that I was just saying at the time, just coming out. It was just coming off my head. And that's when I realized that, even you said, "Man, Tony, if I'd known you were this good, I'd have had you commentate a long time ago." Right. But I loved it. It was so fun.
Yep.
But yeah, 98 was a good year. And then after that, Jeff, you end up selling the company to me there at the end of 98, and then I took a few months off trying to plan on the next show, and I think at that time is when I started running shows there at the bar, a bar in High Point, North Carolina, called Rock and Jacks. But I think that didn't start up to what, 99?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we finished up 98 there. So getting back to 98 there in that building. So the final match there was it us against those guys, or was the final match you and Donnie? I'm trying to remember.
No, we did a like a battle zone, but it, with no cage. It was the original Dream Team, which was Gentleman James, Tenacious Tony, and Dangerous Donnie, against the Palace of Pain, which was you, Terrific Tony, Gorgeous Jeff, and Magnificent Mark.
That's right. I remember. Yeah.
And that's how we finished up everything.
Yeah.
And of course, the babies won. The babies always win matches.
Yeah.
Like that.
But I tell you, Jeff, not just my matches, but there in 98 in that building was probably the best growth of the, when I say the originals, I'm talking you, me, Donnie, James, Mark. But it was like the biggest growth that we had as far as our talent goes. Like we really crafted, our wrestling abilities, our thought processes, and also our friendships. I feel like all that grew that year in 98.
I totally agree, and especially myself. I mean, I can look back and I think, and I was overtraining then, and I would go to this place like twice a week and train wrestlers, and man, it was, and I was in the best shape, and since I was a kid, I had dropped like 25 pounds. I was right around 215, 220.
Yeah.
And Donnie had lost a ton of weight. He was down to like 220 pounds.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Which anybody, Big Donnie, 350-pound guy. I mean, he had dropped over 100 pounds. And, man, some of the matches he and I had, I still will never forget the match he and I had in that building. And after the match was over, everybody was standing at the dressing room door watching. And when we went to the back, I mean, everybody was there like, man, that was awesome, and high-fiving us and all this crap. And, I'll never forget that. And I had a match that year. After the match was over, I got a standing ovation from the crowd. I mean, it's crazy, man. So many great matches took place in 1998.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And the fact that we're in a building with, 10-foot high ceilings, and we're doing wrestling shows.
And the fact that we had you were able to get the ring modified to where it would fit in that building, and we'd still be able to have a great put on a great match and great shows, and everybody got along. I mean, at that time there was no egos. There was like I'm better than you, you're better than me. It was a time where you, me, your brother Tony, Donnie, James, Mark, and the new people that kind of joined up with us, like Super G and Dustin and Kenny. We all just flourished in our friendships, and nobody talked trash about anybody else, and just so many good memories came. And another memory just kind of crossed my mind. In one of those matches, Jeff, you guys had, or I guess Donnie or somebody had met these guys. They called themselves the Trash Can Express, but they were college students, and they'd come up there. And I remember, Jeff, they would bring like 2 whole rows of college kids, and most of them would be a bunch of girls. And I remember there was this one girl in particular that always came there with a full sweater, if you know what I mean. And I remember we were in the tag match. It was you and me against Mark and Kenny. And I remember seeing this chick, and of course she was over there on Mark's side of the ring, and I get in the ring, and as soon as we get in, and she was wearing a mini skirt. The guys, before I tell the story, you gotta remember I was only 22 years old, 23 years old, so cut me a little slack here. But you're in the ring, you and Mark start out. Mark comes over and or you come over and tag me in, and we were getting ready to do the arm spot. And as soon as I come in the ring, I told Mark, I said, "Throw me out." He goes, "What?" I said, "Throw me out on the floor over there." And I remember I looked over at you. I said, "You said arm spot." I said, "Not yet." And as soon as I get in the ring, I tell Mark, "Throw me out," and Mark throws me out at her feet. But nobody noticed her except for me. And so I told Mark, "Throw me out over there." And I said, "Throw me out." And he goes to throw me out. I said, no, over there where the people are at. And so, because 2 sides of the ring, there was no chairs. It was just on one side. So I said, "No, throw me out on the floor over next to those people." And he throws me out right at her feet. I land right at her feet, and I look up. The only thing I can see is her upper skirt. And she turns sideways. I'm like, "Oh, sorry," And so I get back up in the ring, and no, I'm sorry. Mark was the first one to see her. That's right. Mark was the first one to see her, because when I got in the ring with him, we said arm spot, and he puts me in a headlock, and he's got me in a headlock, and he says, "Look at those boobs over there," as he's punching me. And I couldn't hear what he was saying. And I said, "What?" And he said, "Look at those boobs over there." And I look over, I said, "Throw me out." And he throws me out, and I heard you go, "What are you doing?" And then I come back in the ring, and then I come over and I go to tag you. I said, "Jeff, look at the boobs over there." And you said, "Are you serious?" because you were like trying to focus on having a good match, and we were too busy. We were being little adolescent teenagers trying to look at some hot chick on the front row. But oh my God, that was so funny. And she would come with them like every week for, I don't know, several months or whatever. But just things like that, you know, that would just be, you know, I'm sure a lot of listeners at home are like, are you serious? You telling that story? But at the time, it was just like we had no worries. Our only concerns was wrestling and just, you know, having a good life and living out our dreams. And that's pretty much, you know, what we were doing there in that building.
Yeah. Of course, as motorists, can we make the rent this month?
Yeah. And then I think we ended up subleasing out part of the, you know, the back of the building, correct?
Yeah, we subleased out the garage.
Yeah, the garage
and then
area.
We moved. We had an area where we put up a curtain, and we did our dressing room there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it worked out. I mean, you know, like I said, it was a nice building. It was in a perfect area. I can remember going up there for training and stuff, and then we could drive down to the bottom. I always said the bottom of the hill because it was like up on the hill, but we could go down to the bottom of the hill to the Little Caesars Pizza, and we'd get pizza, and man, it was just a great time.
Mm-hmm.
It really was, and then we, you know, like you said, we did the fair there that year, and like again, everybody was just like, you know, getting along so well, and it was just a good time, you know, and great memories.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the end of an era came in '90, and the end of '98, and you end up selling the ring, and thank goodness I was able to buy it, and decided to take my my take on promotions, and next week we'll touch base on that as well. And start talking about some of those shows there at Rock and Jacks, and then of course I ended up getting my own building as well at some point, and I had a training center, and but of course we'll definitely talk more on that. But tonight ends this series on the early stages of my career from '93 to '98, and man, Jeff, I you know, all these years later, I still can never thank you enough for giving at the time, 125-pound mullet-wearing, Motley Crue loving redneck a shot at being in wrestling and living out his dream. And you know, Jimmy Valiant he trained me on a lot of things and taught me a lot of stuff. But man, without you, I never would have even got my foot in the door. So thank you very much for that, and thank you for our great friendship that we've had over the years. And Jeff has you know, a lot of wrestlers that you meet in the wrestling business. You know, you meet them, you talk to them, you know, and that's pretty much how far as it goes. But you and I, when we met, we bonded pretty quickly, and there'd be times where I mean, I know for a fact almost there for several years, you and I talked on the phone about every day.
Yeah, we did. Yep.
We'd sit and I'd come in from work, and I'd call you, Jeff, tell me what my crazy wife said. I mean, I got a vent, you know. When's the next show, Jeff? Whatever. But man, we would we always did that, and so we've always remained friends, and I can you know, we've been there with each other through the good times, the bad times, and all the times in between, and you know, and we're still the best of friends. So you know, wrestling business is good for a lot of things.
Most definitely.
Well, Jeff, you have anything else before we close out this week's show?
No, I think we covered everything there for 97 and 98.
Yep, it was definitely some good years, and I know before we end the show, you and I sat down a couple weeks ago and had dinner together and called up. Now you're about to leave the great state of North Carolina, am I right?
Yes, I have 30 days from today. I'll be moving to Florida.
Wow. the Sunshine State. Yeah, what Jeff ain't telling you is he's going to Florida to join the WWE training center and teach them how to wrestle down there. Now you're gonna love Florida, Jeff. That weather down there is so nice and it's just gonna be a good time for you, I think.
Yeah, I hope so. Just make it through the hot summer.
Yeah, that's gonna be the tough part. Speaking of Florida, I have to tell you, I never realized because I never went to Florida until I met my wife. I didn't go to a lot of places till I met my wife. I usually stayed within North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. That was the states I always went to until I met my wife, and then she's taking me all over the United States. But I remember the first time I ever went to Florida. She took me down to Disney World, but it was in December, and if you've never been to Florida in December, you need to go because it is beautiful there. In December, I remember going there and it'd be like, 75, 80 degrees, in December, and it was just beautiful. But it wasn't, it was like one of those times where you could go and it'd be 70s and, 70s to 80s, but you didn't sweat. It wasn't like miserable, like I can't take this. And I went 2 more times with her, and again, we'd always go in December. We would always go around December 15th, and we go to Disney. And but then a few years ago, we went down to Florida in September, and I will tell you, Jeff, I thought I had went to hell because it was so hot. I had went and bought one of those cooling towels, the little cooling towel gimmicks that you run underwater and then you wring it out and it stays cold. And you wrap it around your neck. And Jeff, and I remember when I bought that towel, it was blue, and I'd run water over it, wring it out, it'd be cold, throw it around my neck, and I'd just go around all day. And we were there for 5 days, and Jeff, by the time we left there, that blue towel had faded to white because between my sweat and the heat, it just bleached it. It was so miserable. And I remember telling my wife, I said, if you ever tell me again we're coming to Florida in September, I'm gonna probably not go because this heat is just too much for me. I could not. Oh, it was miserable. I spent most of my time that week at Disney looking for shade and looking for air conditioning. I didn't want to be out in that heat. It was bad. But I'm sure if we were down at the beach with the ocean breeze coming, it wouldn't be that bad. But man, it definitely. And of course, I'm from North Carolina, and we have all the seasons here. And in Florida, you just have 2. You just have summer and spring, pretty much. But no, it does cool off in December. It does get a little cooler, but man, Jeff, you're definitely going to love it down there. And I can't wait to come down and visit you and go hang out.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
Gonna be a good time. Well, Jeff, thank you for joining me. Fans, thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you tune in next week. We'll be touching more on some different topics, and of course, make sure that you go to the NAWA website or Facebook page. That you got a huge show coming up. And before we close out this week's podcast, we have a little commercial we want to play for our sponsors, the NAWA. The NAWA presents the benefit for the Caldwell County Crime Stoppers, Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School in Lenoir, North Carolina. On this tremendous card, you will see in action the Rock and Roll Express versus Myrick Moore and Mike Mon. The Barbarian and Golden Gladiator number 2 take on B&B and Johnny Ryder. Mr. Number 1 George South takes on AJ Frost. Plus, see in action the Burke County Boys, the Saturday Night Superstar Tony Benz, Max Carnage, Ted, Axel Jaggers, and many more. That's Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School, Lenoir, North Carolina, 3210 Gamewell School Road,
Lenore, North Carolina. Also see a meet and greet, have your picture taken with the Perfect 10 baby doll, or Demolition Axe. That's Saturday, April 30th, Gamewell Middle School. Tickets, VIP, $12. General admission only $10. Kids, $5. And all children 5 and under are free with paying adult. That's Saturday, April 30th at Gamewell Middle School. NAWA presents the benefit for the Caldwell County Crime Stoppers. Saturday, April 30th, Gamewell Middle School, Lenore, North Carolina. Be there.
Man, Jeff, that is going to be a tremendous, tremendous card taking place there in Lenore. And I believe that's the same day you're moving, correct?
Yes, it is. I'll be heading to Florida that day.
Man, I hate that. I would love for you to come at least come and be my manager one more time before you take off. But I definitely get it. You got to get down and make that long ride, that long journey to start your new life. And I'm happy for you. And I can't wait to see how everything turns out for you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, fans, thank you again for joining us for this week's show. Make sure you go like us on our Facebook page. And for Jeff, I'm Tony. We will see you next week here on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.